Welcome to another episode of the Why Not Today podcast. And the question I want to ask you guys today is, why do we quit right before it starts working? I talk a lot about consistency and doing the things consistently, and the results show. One, I could point to a ton of different why not today moments, but one in particular I remember was several years ago when I was in qualification for another Mary Kay Cadillac. And, I know and teaching people and coaching people and building my own business that you got to do the work, play the numbers, and the results will come. And if there's a deadline, guess what? Things usually don't happen until the deadline. First, I always say I don't procrastinate, I'm deadline driven. And second, I always use the analogy with people building a team or doing a big goal that, as much as kids, when we waited and waited and waited for Santa Claus never came early. He came on Christmas Eve. And sometimes that's how it is with goals. And you got to keep working and not quit. And so I remember distinctly, I was in qualification for Cadillac. It was the month end was on a Sunday. And on Friday, on paper, it did not look like we were at all close. But I had planted so many seeds and talked to so many people and was not willing to give up. And so I just kept asking, kept calling, following up. When somebody said no, I would take that no and turn it into a maybe. And would you still meet with me? And miracles just happened. And it's not because of that weekend. I remember somebody that was a virtual assistant. She reached out to me on Monday. She's like, how did you do that? Like on paper, it wasn't even registering. And it's because one, I believed, and two, I'd done the work. It wasn't the things that happened in the last minute that made reach the goal. It was things I'd done for months and really years planting those seeds. And sometimes we really need to be careful with not quitting before it's working. And we all sometimes, I don't know if it's about you guys, but have you ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but nothing's happening? We start, then we stop, then we switch, then we start over, and you keep coming back. If you know what you know, what you know, what you should be doing, and there's a track record, yeah, sometimes we got to pivot, but for the most part, consistency is key. And we're not going through the cycle of starting and stopping and switching and starting over, not because we don't know what to do. Really what's happening is we're not seeing the growth. We have slow growth. You don't see the results. The numbers aren't moving fast enough. Has anybody ever felt that? I know I have so many times. But what's actually happening is your effort is stacking. Consistency is building on something unseen. And so results are delayed. They're not absent. So you just need to keep going and not quit. I don't know the exact degree, but there's a story about water boiling, at I think 211 degrees it isn't, but 212 it is. So it's just when you hit that tipping point. I've talked to several people on the podcast and we talk about overnight successes that took 10 years. It doesn't happen immediately as much as we want. So why do we quit? Start over, pivot. It's not because of clarity. It's not lack of ideas. Gosh, no. And not even lack of activity or effort. It's lack of visual proof. When people don't see the progress, they assume it's not working. They change directions. They reset the timeline. I don't know about you guys, but I like maybe I should do it this way, or this person's doing this way, and this person has success. But every time you pivot and change, you're starting over. So really one thing is too many ideas is really a hidden distraction. I am so guilty of this. So we don't need more clarity. Really, you need to, as I just mentioned, commit to one path. Having too many ideas creates motion, but not progress. You're going all over the place. So progress comes from choosing what not to do also. So no is as important as a question as yes. As you're growing your business and trying to build clientele, we were talking about it on the inner circle the other day that, there's a difference between contacts and leads. Contacts are people and leads are people that are going to buy from you. And so, yes, it's fun to go to some of the events, and I am so guilty of this, where your friends are, and it's fun. And, there's a place for that. But if you're on a serious grow your business mode, then being in front of the right people makes so much sense. The right before the result stage, if you've been consistent, you're feeling tired, you're like, I just can't do this anymore. Nothing exciting is happening. And one thing I've told myself over and over again is that I don't have to do it forever, but I do have to push hard now. And this is when most people quit. Now, I have not ran a marathon. I did one 5K, but I haven't done a marathon. I haven't done a triathlon or any of those things. And what I've heard from people that have, there's that point that you want to quit, but you got to keep going. And, it's not a failure. You just in the build phase. Another thing, just thought of this thing. If you've got a month end goal, do you know what the 20th of the month is? We're not there yet. We're on the 6th. Well, I'm recording this on the 16th, or it's coming out around on the 16th of the month. But the 20th of the month is National Quit Day. If you got a month end goal, the 20th is about the point that you don't see it happening. You're like, it's not going to happen. There's no way. But that's the time you push through. I have one of my inner circle members, which we've had on the podcast, Nicole. She actually had a big goal to reach last year. And as of September, she wasn't even halfway there. And so she's like, you know what? It's 3/4 of the year done. I'm not halfway there. There's no way it's going to happen. But we talked and we worked on her mindset and changing her mindset to believe, throw out the unrealistic goal idea and believe that, you know what? It's possible. And no, she did not reach the goal, but she came so much closer if she would have decided, thrown in the towel and thought, oh, it's not going to happen. And what that did is set her up for huge success this year. So it's consistency. It's doing the boring things, things you don't want to do. This podcast is a perfect example. Literally, I started it with no idea what I was doing, but I started it over 4 years ago. And time flies. And so they always say the best time to start is, 10 years ago or today. And so I started and grew, and it's grown slowly. I can't say it's done great things, but all of a sudden I was looking at my numbers and they're moving quick all of a sudden. So sometimes that happens. You don't see the big jumps right away, and then suddenly things start to increase. So the growth didn't start at the spike. It started long before, when you're planting the seeds. Sometimes we're measuring the wrong thing. Most people track like the downloads for podcast sales, followers, but those lag behind. What actually matters is showing up, doing the reps, consistent action, talking to the people, engaging consistently if you're playing in social media, consistently letting content be out there. And that makes a difference. And so the truth about consistency, it's not sexy. It's not instant results. Consistency is doing the same things when it feels like it's not working. Kind of like working out, do a little bit every day and it shows up, but it's after continually doing it. And so you don't need a new plan, guys. You don't need more time with the same plan. Really, it's not that it's not working. You just haven't stayed long enough. Don't quit. And so where have you been starting over instead of staying consistent? Really think about, where do you keep pivoting? Do you start over every Monday? Do you start over every beginning of the month? Do you look at where you are and say, okay, this is a new quarter, a new year, a new whatever. So think about what systems you can put into place. Your weekly planning and then accountability is so key. When somebody else is watching, whether they're judging you or not, that you're just checking in with somebody. I remember years ago, we had, this tells you how long ago, a tracking system ironically, it was called the Inner Circle, which is what I've called my coaching program. But we had to fill in a form every week and fax it to our mentor. And, you had to say your results. And sometimes I faxed that sheet with a big old smiley face on it because I hadn't done anything. But you know what? Enough times of just getting in that habit of checking in, got it done, and I reached my goals. So, if you want more information about what I'm doing here, Why Not Today, to help people with the accountability, help you get the things done that you know how to do and you're just not doing it. And so there's a couple programs. There's the Inner Circle. I kicked off a VIP action session. And of course, I'm doing one monthly free workshops. So if any of these things spoke to you and you feel like, you know what, you could just need a little support, I offer complimentary coaching sessions. I'm here to support you. If you like the podcast, share with a friend, tell somebody about it. review it, like it, and keep listening. And remember, results aren't delayed. Results are delayed, they're not absent. And you might want to look closer than you think. You haven't given yourself enough time for it to show you. And you just never know. Just keep, um, as I said, you keep making the donuts and it will grow. I promise you. So thanks again for watching, listening to the Why Not Today podcast. As I close every episode, what is one thing you're going to do today? Why not today? Don't wait. Bye.